Sometimes the difference between success and not succeeding is focusing on the vision. Today's special guest speaker will help us do just that. She's the author of Dream Makers, Putting Vision and Values to Work. She found that top leaders use a common core of principles and practices to develop extraordinary organizations. It starts with the vision, a powerful mental image of what you want to create in the future. It continues with values that keep individuals and organizations on course and working toward the vision. In June of 1993, she was appointed by President Clinton to serve as executive director of the Federal Quality Institute, with a mission to help seed the reinvention of the U.S. government. There, she worked with Vice President Gore to bring latest practices to this effort through public-private partnerships formed with world-recognized leaders and organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of Vision and Values, Michele Hunt.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. I need your energy. Thank you. Well, good morning, fellow dream makers. How many out there believe that you are a dream maker? Stand up if you're a dream maker. One. Now, we're going to all applaud you. And I'll tell you why. Because we're living in a time today when we need to catalyze dream makers all over the world. And in your role in training and development, you are the catalyst of dream makers. Dream makers are people who have discovered the art of tapping into their passion, creating a compelling vision, and following that vision to make their dreams come true. At work, at home, in their communities, and in the world. And I'd like to take you on a journey about my belief in dream makers. Before I get started, though, I've got a couple of disclaimers. The first thing is I'm not a consultant, I'm a catalyst. And that's quite intentional. I'm a catalyst because I believe that people have their own answers. Answers lie within organizations, families, and communities. And my role as I navigate through life is to help open up, help catalyze those exciting ideas, innovations, and creativity that lie within people in our organizations. The second disclaimer, I am passionate, absolutely passionate about this idea that people are extraordinary and capable of extraordinary things when they're mobilized around a compelling shared vision, rooted in deeply held shared values, and then liberated to change and align everything, their systems, their processes, their structures, policies, decision-making, and most of all, behavior to serve that vision and values. Miracles happen. Miracles happen. There's nothing we can't create. So as I take you on my journey, understand this is my bias. If I share an idea or belief with you and it resonates with you, take it and run with it. If you think it's hokey or crazy, just forget it, just throw it away. But I might get carried away because this is my dream, this is my passion. So that's my disclaimer. I'd like to kind of just give you another just short definition of vision, because that word's thrown around a lot. For me, vision is your North Star. As we're navigating through life today, it is that place you can look up that shines bright, and we can see where we want to go, the future we want to create together. Values are the rudder, so that as we're navigating on that journey to create our vision, when the weather comes and the storms come and the winds change, we can root ourselves in what matters to us most, so that on that journey we don't hurt the environment, people, or suboptimize what we're trying to do together. So vision is our North Star, values is our rudder as we navigate through life. And I don't have to tell you that there are compelling reasons today for us to dream together. The changes are unprecedented. The kind of innovations in science technology that are occurring right now, moment by moment, we can't calibrate the impact they're going to have on our lives, at home, at work, in our organizations. So we need to dream the future we want to create together. I mean, I just got back from China. Talk about technology. My daughter is teaching in China right now, and I just got back, and we were on the Great Wall of China, right? All these Chinese children, 90% of them had cell phones. I mean, 90% of the children on the Great Wall of China had cell phones. So the world is changing very, very quickly, so we need to be able to dream together. And not only is it just science, technology, communications, and all of the technical things that are driving us and confusing us, but also people are changing. People are changing. You know, because of what we've gone through in the last 10 years with all these changes, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and with the downsizing and restructuring of organizations, people are wanting to live on purpose. People are finally saying, hold it, time out. What am I here for? They want to live with meaning and purpose. And so people now are reaching deeper. Even people who so-called are a success on top management teams that got their management role, you don't often see the glitter in their eyes because they get there, we get there, and we say, is this all there is? Is this what it is? So today, we need to dream a better way. The institutions that used to guide us in the past to tell us what was right or wrong, tell us which way to go, every single institution is struggling with its identity. So no longer can we rely on the outside. No longer can we rely on government, on education, on all of those institutions to tell us what to do. We have to collaboratively come up with dreaming our dream together. Now, my belief in dream makers is rooted in a core assumption. There are two ways we're brought up, polar views about people. One is that people are lazy, people can't be trusted, and people have limit on their growth. I believe that people are extraordinary, capable of extraordinary things, and are limitless. I'd like to read a quote by Dee Hock, who was the founder of Visa. And in his older age, he is really coming up with some remarkable insights about people and leadership. He says, without question, the most abundant, least expensive, most underutilized, and most constantly abused resource in the world is human ingenuity. He goes on to say, money motivates neither the best people nor the best in people. It can rent the body, it can influence the mind, but it cannot touch the heart or move the spirit. That is reserved for belief, principle, and ethics, or what I call values. He says, people are not things to be manipulated, boxed, labeled, bought, and sold. Above all else, people are not human resources. We are the entire human being containing the whole of the evolving universe, limitless unless we are limited by ourselves and others, or others. Very, very powerful. This whole idea of creating the organizations we want, the communities we want, the families we want, ultimately the world we want, has to do with liberating people. And so I think there are two areas we need to work on most: believing in people and understanding leadership. So for me, it's all about people and leadership. Dee talks about leadership. He says, to be precise, one cannot speak of leaders who cause organizations to achieve superlative performance. No one can cause that. Leaders can only recognize and modify conditions that prevent it. They can perceive and articulate a sense of community, a vision of the future, a body of principles to which people can become passionately committed. Then, encourage and enable them to discover and bring forth the extraordinary capabilities that lie trapped in everyone struggling to get out. It's all about people, and it's all about leadership. What I'd like to do now is take you on my journey so you can understand how deeply I believe in this. I am the most fortunate person in the world because I have witnessed and participated with the greatest dream makers I've ever known. So I'm going to share with you my journey, including my personal journey. I am the most blessed person alive because I was born into the two greatest dream makers on the face of this earth, Ted and Leona Hunt, my parents, the two greatest people I've ever met in my life. My father, I'm 51 years old, just to give you context. So my father was a 30-year career man in the Air Force. And so when I was in the 4th and 5th grade, it was like the mid-50s, 56, around there. And we were stationed on military bases, like Anchorage, Alaska, or Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And we were in Kentucky at a time when it was very challenging for an African-American family, because we were the first family to have housing. Well, I want to share a story with you that was the defining moment of my life, the defining moment of my life. We were stationed in Fort Campbell. I was in the 4th grade. Now, every day going to school was a real challenge. We would leave out, being the only African Americans, and the kids would lock their arms and sing, "Tick-tock, the game is locked, no niggers could play." And we would hear we call that name 20, 30 times a day, not just by children. However, I have this dream maker father who every morning got us up, and I'd walk into the bathroom, he'd stand behind me, I'd have to look in the mirror, and I'd have to say, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm loving, I'm loved, and I'm wise 7 times. I thought he was crazy. I thought he was a fanatic, and I would say to myself, at the end, and you're nuts. To myself. And then you'd go to school and navigate through your day, and I'd come home to this dream maker mother, Leona Hunt, and I'd complain, well, we'd complain, and she'd say, baby, okay, sweetie, all right. Now what are you gonna do about it? So between my father giving me a positive vision of myself, rooted in the deeply held value of my mother, of personal responsibility, the three of us were able to navigate through some really challenging times. So I started as a student of great dream makers. So I went on through my life, and being a baby boomer, really the biggest class that ever graduated, I graduated from college in 1971. What happened in those 4 years, death of Martin Luther King, Kent State, Vietnam War, all of that stuff was going on. So when I hit the real world in 1971, I couldn't find a job because we had glutted the market, the baby boomers. Everyone had a degree in sociology and psychology. So I took a state test. And what popped up after 6 months unemployed was the first female probation officer to handle adult male felons on probation in Detroit. I had never even lived in the city, let alone think I could do something like that. That's not the story I want to tell you. I thought I was going to be there just a year or two until I could find something better, but 9 years later, I became the first female deputy warden in a male prison. Now, by this time, when the governor asked me to do that, I had been first this, first that, first this. I said, okay, quid pro quo, brand new prison, Western Michigan, very conservative area of Michigan. There was a lot of community resistance to the prison, so I said, okay, I'll do it if you allow us to experiment. So we put together a responsibility model, which went like this. The more responsibility an inmate showed, the more opportunity they had to participate in the design of programs that affected them. So we created a partnership between the inmates, the treatment staff, the custody staff, and 167 community volunteers. It was phenomenal. Every inmate had a tutor, and that was their idea. There was an arts and recreation program that was extraordinary. In fact, we had investigative reporters thinking that we were using taxpayers' money because they were having golf clinics and cross-country ski clinics in the yard, but it was all volunteers. And my point to this story is I found dream makers in the most least likely place, in prison. They didn't have the dream maker parents. They didn't have the community support and environment. However, when in fact they were mobilized around something that mattered to them and then liberated to participate in changing and aligning and designing towards that vision, miracles happened. It was phenomenal. Well, I went on, and the governor said, okay, now become the first female warden. And I said, time out, that's it. I'm not going to do that. I didn't commit a crime. I'm not staying in prison the rest of my life. Just can't do that. So I decided to give the private sector a chance. This was a hard decision for me. I'm a baby boomer. I believed that the private sector only made money over the backs of people. I had a strong belief in that. However, I put my research skills to work, and I started looking for a company I could join and not sacrifice my values. And I found this company called Herman Miller. Now, I took a $15,000 cut in 1980 to join this company and ended up coming in as an individual contributor because the private sector did not value the public sector skills. And I'll tell you why I picked that company versus a pharmaceutical down the street that was going to pay me at least part of my salary and at least bring me in as middle management. Because every single person I talked to about the company lit up like I do when I talk about my family. And no, they didn't say, I am an accountant, or I am in human resources, or I am in management. They talked about the company as if it was theirs. They talked about Herman Miller. Now, it was difficult to get in. I think I had about 9 or 10 interviews, but I can remember on my last interview, I was still wondering, what makes this place like this? And they had taken me for a tour in the factory, in one of their factories. This is a global 300 company and office furniture. Put the world in the modular office. Hate us or love us. But in my last interview, I said, I went through the plant, fresh flowers in the break area, smiles on people's faces. You could eat off the floor. I was impressed. But then I said, okay, this is their show place, and everybody knows how to act here because they've been trained that way. I was still very cynical. And I went to the bathroom and I ducked into an auditorium, a large auditorium, and a housekeeper was realigning chairs after a meeting had just dispersed. And I was watching her, and the attention to detail was phenomenal. She was making sure the base of those chairs were perfectly aligned, and you'd see her lining up the base of those chairs. And you had to ask yourself, what kind of environment engenders this kind of ownership with someone who's on the lowest realm of the pay scale? That was what turned it for me. And I joined Herman Miller. After a couple years, was able to navigate my way to the top management team. And again, I'm one of the most blessed people in the world, and got in the eye of a great leader named Max Dupree, who then appointed me as vice president for people. Not human resources, vice president for people. Now, I fought him because I couldn't imagine a card giving them to my friends saying, I'm vice president for people, But in his insight, he said, no, it is not of people, it is for people, and you will learn what you need to become in order to truly represent that title. And I did. I truly did. It was difficult, but I did. After a couple of years on the top management team, we got into trouble, big time trouble. This was a very successful company. We became arrogant. We had our head in the sand. The world had changed, and we hadn't changed with it. And very quickly it became apparent that we were on the verge of going out of business. So Max Dupree, in his infinite wisdom, took 5 of us off the top management team and said, you 5 go come up with a way to renew and transform this entire company. And he locked us away in our lodge, Marigold Lodge, and we couldn't come out until we came up with something. So you know what we did? The first couple of days, we played with our resumes. Because what did you do? You know, I mean, well, Max wasn't there. He wasn't there. He wasn't there, and the president wasn't there. The rest of us was there, you know, so sweep away the top management team, bring in a new one. That's what we thought was going to happen. However, fortunately, Phil Mercarella, the vice president of sales and marketing, said, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. And so we said, okay, let's come up with a vision for what we want this company to become. So we took that vision back to Max, and it wasn't a very exciting vision. It didn't get you up in the morning. It was market share, numbers, profitability, that kind of stuff. And Max looked at it and said, that's a start. Okay, come up with a disciplined process to bounce that vision through every single person in management worldwide. We did that, and it started to come alive. It started to come alive. It got better. They were closer to the work. They knew more than we did. When you're on the top management team, you know very little. You're too isolated and too insulated. And so by bouncing that vision and getting authentic feedback, it began to come alive. We took it back to Max. We thought we were ready to go. And he said, what would happen if you designed a disciplined process to bounce that vision to each and every human being in the company and our core partners and stakeholders? We said, okay, here he goes again. So we did. It's a long process. The vision jumped off the page. The people told us that, and it sounds like any other vision, but it was the process of engagement and participation, authentic participation. The vision was that we want to be a reference point for quality and excellence in anyone's eyes. However, they came up with a metaphor that if an 8-year-old child sees a red Herman Miller truck, they'll have an experience of quality and excellence. We said, whoa, what kind of values and principles would we have to build into our organization and embrace for an 8-year-old child to have an experience of quality and excellence? We did that W again process and bounced that through every single human being. First the management, then everyone through the management. And they came up with 7 values. Continue to deepen and navigate with a customer-focused vision, rooted in true participation and teamwork, not who you report to, but whoever has the passion and the information to add value to any problem or opportunity. Ownership. People should own decisions, and they should share in the risk and rewards of the business. Becoming a learning organization, so we don't get into this problem again. Valuing uniqueness, because we want the unique views and background of everyone, the gifts of everyone, their perspectives and gifts, and that was diversity with the widest lens, and family, social, and environmental responsibility. Because if that 8-year-old child saw us spewing stuff into the environment, or downsizing their brother, their sister, their parents, their neighbor, or sending their parents to Singapore and not bringing them home on the weekend so that they can't go to their soccer team or soccer game, then that child will not have an experience of quality and excellence. And then the last was financial soundness. The hard part was ahead of us, to change and align everything. So we put cross-world teams together and enabled everyone to change and align everything: policies, systems, structures, processes, behavior, recognition, and reward systems. For instance, on family, social, and environmental responsibility, every one of our manufacturing facilities, we built energy centers. We thought that was going to be a cost. It ended up an investment, because others wanted to burn their waste, and then it ended up actually a for-profit center. Another example, if we did send you to Singapore, we had a travel policy now, a new travel policy. We brought you home every weekend. If you traveled over 40%, we set up a spouse and family travel fund that capped at $12,000. You could take them with you. We were one of the first companies to job share, to go no smoking, because that was environmental responsibility. We took our human resource manual and threw it out because it was 360 pages. And we came up with a 12-pager that was vision, values, and just addendums that the law required us, because we said we hired you to think, navigate with vision and values. All time clocks were stripped. We got rid of all time clocks. It was phenomenal. People thought we were absolutely crazy. What were the results? Most admired company by Fortune magazine, 7 years in a row, double-digit growth, stock splits, in the top 5 companies in America to work for, top for working mothers, top for women, best products by Business Week, all because we mobilize people around a compelling shared vision that they helped create, rooted in deeply held values that they shared. And then we had the courage to change and align everything. We changed structures. When I left Herman Miller, I was on 7 cross-functional, cross-world teams, and I only led one of them, and I was on the top management team. We moved to organizational structure being form followed function. Instead of us inheriting these boxes and then standing in them. It was Camelot. It was absolute Camelot. Just 2 quick stories. Well, one, we had the first female vice president. We made her a vice president, and she was part-time because she had just had a child. And we gave her a new business to launch, Herman Miller in the Home. She and her team met at her house most of the time because she was a new mother, but they not only launched that business successfully, below cost, and they beat the schedule. Another quick story. We went no smoking. It was a great feat. We had no hiccups. However, one of my zealot recruiters decided to put in our nationwide ad for director of sales that we are the first no smoking environment. At the same time, when a $10 million contract hit a cigarette company's desk, the CEO, I get a call from the CEO of this company. And he says, you either rescind that no smoking policy or lose the $10 million contract. I was like this. I was like, my 60s horns came out. I said, I know the guys aren't going for this. We had a top management team meeting. It was 10 minutes long. They understood we had to walk our talk. They understood the intangible cost of rescinding the trust of people. And they gave me the honor of calling the CEO and telling him what to do with that contract. That's great. People are extraordinary and capable of extraordinary things if we create an environment that enables them to participate in something that matters to them. And they are able to work towards meaning. We won American Airlines their chair contract for their new headquarters in Dallas. Our chair plant delivered the chairs on a Friday, understanding they were going to have open house on a Monday. And when they got there, when they unloaded the chairs, there were indents in the back of the cushions. Without talking to the plant manager or the supervisors, this team of 30 people organized a group to rub out over the weekend those indents. And they had to get our shipment out. We didn't know anything about it. The only way we found out about it is that they wrote a letter, and they all signed it, and they said, thank you for your business, with all their signatures. That letter made it up to the CEO of American Airlines, over to Max Dupree, and of course they won the team award. I think it's the first time we put together a team award as a result of that. And so it engenders that kind of ownership and that kind of participation. Well, I go on my quest, and President Clinton fell in love with what Herman Miller did and recruited me to join the administration to help with the reinvention of the U.S. government. It made prison look like a piece of cake. I mean, it was the hardest job I've ever had. But I worked with the most exciting people. That's where I met Tina